public office helping คุณธนาธร in Future Forward Party. I had a good quick chat with him, and we had a check on our policy alignment. And then he wanted me to help out with agriculture reform. So that was my expectation at the time. And then lots of things happened during that 1 or 2 years, the seating party. And then it was clear that election had to come soon. Once it comes, and that's when I become the prime ministerial candidate. So I think 2 or 3 years that I had made up my mind.
But even a month ago, did you really expect to be in this position now?
Yes or no. If you went through all my interviews with the foreign media and the Thai media, I did my campaign management. I look at the data, the previous data, historical records of all the elections, local, national, and I saw that I had a political canvas of 160 seats. The score was good, the candidate was strong, the competitors was weak, the customer voters requiring change because they're younger than me. 50% of them are younger than me. So I had these numbers that I cranked out. The political canvas was 160. The rest is all about probability, how we can turn, this 51. So 90% probability. So it was planned, based on my education. It was planned, it was analyzed, it was data driven. There was a lot of big data involved.
But you surely didn't expect a result this good.
I was expecting the probability of about 70-75%, and it improved over time. When you ask about my expectation 2 months before, 3 months before, maybe, if I have this as a strategic political canvas for me, and then I would say the probability of 50 or 75, that depends on how strong our campaign was, how often our candidates went out to visit the constituency and our policies and things like that.
Your party is proposing a sweeping root and branch reform of a whole range of Thai life and Thai institutions. The first party in modern Thai history to have such an ambitious agenda. What is wrong with Thailand that it needs these changes?
Because Thailand is part of the global economy, it's part of a global order, and there's always new normal and everything coming out from various walks of life, whether it's the pandemic that just hit the world, whether it's the geopolitical hotspots that's coming all around, so with all this new normal that is affecting Thailand, we also need the new consensus to accommodate this new normal. But what's wrong with Thailand in the past is that we couldn't come up with a consensus. We still stuck to the old consensus in the new normal. So that's always a power struggle. So what we're trying to do is to start off with inconvenient truth that there's a need for Thailand to catch up with the world, with what's going on. In business, before it was just-in-time management. Now it's just-in-case management with what's going on with decoupling, with the new definition of globalization, with the geopolitical risk. So
you don't think Thailand is agile enough to be able to cope?
Exactly. So we need to change the way we think about it. We have to turn a lot of our budgets towards these 21st century challenges, climate change, aging society, digital disruption, pandemic, rather than focusing on the old challenges 40-50 years ago when it comes to like defense, for example. It's still very important, but you need to be professional, you need to be upgraded, and not just having a lot of soldiers in your country will guarantee your national security. It's a totally different ballgame nowadays.
I mean, how will you do that? I mean, you're talking about changing the mindset of an entire bureaucracy.
Outside and inside the parliament. Outside of the parliament, I would argue that for the past 4 years, we have progressed a lot in terms of domination of ideas. When it comes to economic structure that is deep-rooted, liquor liberalization is one thing that we had been trying to do. We lost by 2 votes, so we've come way too far from what we had expected. Marriage equality also passed. Waiting for the new government to come in and pass the laws. So all these things were inconvenient truth once as well. Like 4 years ago, nobody would be discussing about it or will be talking about this. So I think we've come quite far. And outside the parliament, if we can dominate the ideas that these kind of progress is a mutual benefit for all walks of life. If the economy is not a trickle-down economics and it's a strong foundation of economic all around Thailand, and it's not just Bangkok, it's going to be good for everyone, for example.
You're trying to change an entrenched system with some very, very powerful, unaccountable institutions that have kind of kept it the way it is. This same establishment has thrown out elected governments in the past. It's banned prime ministers. aren't they just going to do the same thing to you if you get into power?
Well, if you look at it from an inside-out perspective, it has happened in Thailand before, but I look at it from the outside in. There's a lot of various countries all around in the world that had to go through the same kind of experience here in Thailand, unaccountable, invisible hands of power throwing out away elected officials. So if I look at the international experiences of how they came out of, how they broke the cycle, came out of military coup, South Korea, Indonesia, and some of our friends in Latin America. So I look at them and I see that, the politics of possibility, it's possible for you to break out of the cycle. Yet, when I come back to Thailand, here in Thailand, I got to make sure that I'm not too concerned about it, but I'm not careless about it as well. So I have to have a strong legal team that helps me, and I will have to make sure that I'm an accountable, transparent politician myself to be able to make sure that I don't fall easily for all those things that had happened before here in Thailand.
When we talk about this sort of establishment and things being stuck the way they are, are we talking about, is Thailand's problem mostly because you've got an army that keeps interfering in politics? We have the sensitive issue of the monarchy, which we're all a little constrained with, but it's there. And of course you've got a kind of oligarchic business culture where big giant businesses have enormous power in this country. But where does the focus lie in this sort of, when you're trying to make the country more modern and more flexible?
I think it's military and money, and then also the people around the monarchy doesn't understand the role of monarchy in constitutional monarchy, and then understand what the monarchy should be in modern Thailand or in the 21st century. So how we take care of all these first two in terms of military and money, increase accountability and increase transparency. A lot of things that was done in the past was under the table. A lot of laws that was amended years ago and nobody knew about it. So that's why we need to make sure that there's some accountability to what they do, to how they use their money.
How do you do that? Because they've gone unchecked for decades.
First of all, for example, a lot of wealth in the military all around Thailand that was managed by the military. We were going to pass a law that it has to be managed by the Ministry of Finance. So a lot of revenue that comes from the golf courses, from the hotels, from the wedding planning services, from all the real estates that they have, it has to be reunited back inside the government budget system, for example. And that will be, their money will be accountable, which is part of their money. Military conscription, just to make sure that they don't have all these number of army running around for their own perusal, as well as making sure that there's some accountability in terms of how the military will be used professionally to take care of the national threats outside of the country. So all these
Generals
things
aren't going to like that. They're going to resist.
The generals will not be like that, but the majority of the army would like that. If you look at the voting results all around the country, it's the army base we won. So I think it's not just about keeping the army management in the dark of how it's done inside the barrack, inside their own army camp, but also just to make sure that the rest of the country understand what's going on inside. And I think it's about 1% versus 99% all around the country, including the army as well. So I think the people that it's part of the unfair, dark moments inside the army would understand what we're trying to do. I think a lot of it needs to be a dialogue between what we're trying to do in the army as well.
And the monarchy, you've called for a conversation about the relationship between the monarchy and the people. But this is such a sensitive subject. Many people would say Thailand just isn't ready for that.
I would argue again that if we were to have an interview together with BBC 4 years ago, this question wouldn't be on the topic. But I think we have some maturity and we have some tolerance to really speak out about the monarchy in the more mature way. So
I think a lot of Thais don't have that. They're not that ready. You're going to face some very difficult opposition.
Yeah, but that's a flow and not a snapshot. Like I explained to you. In the beginning, it was a taboo that even a mild criticism or even a mild question is unacceptable. But nowadays, talking in the parliament is starting to become possible. Talking with the media is now possible. So now that is more neutralized, and if we speak about this in the most matured and careful way, I think people will start to understand. Even the conservatives that understand what the role of